Have you ever questioned whether it's actually possible for you to lose the weight? Like, you know it's possible because you see other people do it, but you don't really believe that it's possible for you.
So today we're going to talk about 3 biblical principles to help you lose your next 10 pounds.
Exactly. And just a little hint for you, it is absolutely possible for you to lose the weight, live at a healthy weight, and keep it off.
Okay, so let's dive in. But before we do, we're just going to ask that you subscribe to this YouTube channel, give us a thumbs up, and come and check us out. Set your bell notification so that you don't miss our videos that come up.
And if you've never been here before, our channel really is dedicated to helping Christian women reclaim their health, their weight, and their life so that we can go out and live the purpose that God has for us. So welcome.
So let's start. We have 3 biblical principles that we want to share with you today because we do believe, and we know it is possible because the Bible tells us so, that you can shed the weight that you're looking to shed. But we're talking about right now the next 10 pounds.
Exactly. But we want to tell you that these are biblical principles that we both have used and incorporated to lose the weight and keep it off. And we're here to tell you, we've done all the fad diets. They didn't work. We lost the weight and then we gained it back plus a bit more, which is probably what happens to you because that's what the statistics tell us. And so these are biblical principles that we ourselves have used. I used them to lose 85 pounds after a first pregnancy and 65 after a second one.
And I was at my goal weight because I've always been into health and fitness, but during a rough period of my life, I gained 20 pounds that I didn't want to have. And I lost those 20 pounds by using these principles.
Exactly, because we've got to learn how to fire our diets and lose weight in healthy, sustainable ways. And really, the Bible teaches us that, right? The Bible talks about self-control and moderation and all of these amazing principles that if we incorporated those things into our relationship with food, it would be a whole different world out there.
So, tip number 1, we have to begin by inviting God into our weight loss journey. You know, the Bible says in Proverbs, trust in the Lord in all your ways and lean not on your own understanding. And it's so important that we actually do it. We say the words and we spew them out of our mouth. We have memorized them. We know them. We know them up here, but do we actually live them out?
Are you surrendering every day of this weight loss journey to God? Are you asking God to help you make good decisions? Are you asking God to help you as you work through the crossed up, mixed up wires in your brains around your relationship with food? Are you seeking a way out of temptation when temptation shows up? Because we know that there is always a way out of temptation, but we have to choose to take the escape route.
That's right, because so often we just take on the victim mentality and we think, oh, it's too hard and I'm just going to fail again. And then we give in to the temptation. When we really want to lose the next 10 pounds, we have to run away from the temptation. And with God in the journey, when we invite him to the table, when we invite him into every decision we make, we can escape the temptation.
But it's hard. It's not easy to take the way out of temptation, but there is one, right? And so you've got to figure out a way for you to get out of the temptation. Maybe it means you need to leave the room when the food shows up that you don't know how to say no to. Maybe you need to take yourself out for a walk. Maybe you need to tell your friends and your family, hey, look, I'm working really hard at honoring this body by making good, healthy decisions, so I don't want to have that food around.
Maybe you have to actually ask them not to sabotage your good decisions. And that's a hard conversation. It's not easy. We're not saying that it's easy, but we say that we're saying the truth from the Bible. The Bible says there is always a way of escape. We just have to find the way and then take it.
Exactly. And you know, as we talk about this, I'm often reminded about Joseph and Potiphar's wife. And he made the escape. But do you think that was easy? The Bible doesn't talk about how difficult that probably was in the moment, but our fleshly desires are strong.
And his would have been strong too. And what ended up when he took the way of escape? He ended up in prison. That was difficult. So sometimes it's going to be difficult when you run away, when you take the escape, when you have the difficult conversation. Maybe it's going to be uncomfortable, but sometimes we have to be uncomfortable in our weight loss journey. That's part of the journey. It's part of surrendering it to him.
Exactly. So that is the first biblical principle really that helped us lose the weight, and that if you incorporate that into your life, it will help you lose the weight. It will help you lose the next or first or last 10 pounds that you've got to lose. So invite God into your journey. Work at honoring the body that God has given you because your body is a temple.
That is tip number 2. Our bodies are a temple, and the Bible calls us to treat our body like a temple. And we always say, treat your body like a temple, not a trash can. You know, I'm going to go back into Bible days a little bit, and the people in the Bible, the stories, they're often about food, where they're fellowshipping together and they are enjoying rich, healthy, good nourishment for their bodies. Mm-hmm. They're fueling their bodies well. They had to do a lot of manual work. They were walking everywhere. They didn't have vehicles to drive. They did a lot of working out, I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. And so they needed good nourishment for their body, and God gave us good, healthy foods. But over time, you know, our society became a society of processed junk food, where the good, healthy nourishments were taken out and the harmful things were put in, like artificial sweeteners, chemicals, preservatives, and all those added sugars. Like, if you ever learn to read the labels, you will see how much sugar there is added in almost everything.
Mm-hmm. We've really got to get back to the basics of looking at what food is. So food is fuel for our bodies, right? Which is what you were talking about. Mm-hmm. Back in the biblical times, they moved their bodies a lot. They needed good nourishment. They needed good fuel for their bodies, just like we do today. But we don't need too much fuel. Just like if you think about fueling up your car, you don't need to overfill it. That's wasteful. We don't do that, right? We don't waste our money on gas spilling out of the tank.
No, we would never do that.
No, we would never do that. That, like, you think about that and you go like,
well, that makes sense.
Yeah, right, I would waste my money like that,
That's
right? We don't do that. We also don't run the tank on empty, because if we do, the car doesn't work. And so if you think about your body from that same perspective, well, if you overfill your body, it's wasteful. It's not good. It's not healthy.
Not only that, you're going to get bigger. And we don't want to do that. We're talking about the opposite of that. We're talking about losing the next 10 pounds. So we don't want to overfill our body. And, you know, the Bible is very clear about gluttony. And I'm going to say, in our churches, because this is a faith-based channel, yeah. In our churches, we don't hear messages about how to treat our bodies well with food.
No.
That's kind of been missing in the churches. And so our mission is to help women learn to treat their body well with good nourishment, to fuel their body well and not overstuff it.
Exactly. And, you know, I think one of the reasons why gluttony is so under-addressed in our culture today is because we've created this world where any talk about somebody's weight automatically becomes a conversation about their worth, like to our culture, mm-hmm. and it automatically becomes a conversation about somebody's appearance. And while our appearance is affected by our weight, that's not what the conversation is about here. This conversation is about the health of our bodies. This conversation is about honoring our bodies because God asks us to. Yeah. In fact, not asks us, commands us to.
Yeah, it's not about being a model. It's not about being a size 0. It's not about having a 6-pack. It's about reclaiming our health, to be healthy enough to live out the purpose that God has for you and I to live out.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so the whole gluttony conversation has been so mixed up as well in our culture because we're so worried about offending somebody. And I'm sure the pastors and the preachers are worried about offending people because we've made it so acceptable to live in unhealthy bodies. And I'm saying unhealthy bodies because it's not about the size that you wear. It's not about the number on the scale. It's not about what you look like. It's about honoring and stewarding the body that God gave you. And that's why this conversation matters.
Not only that, the devil works overtime on this particular subject because it's one in the Christian society, in the Christian community where gluttony isn't talked about. And the devil knows that if he can keep us feeling bloated and sluggish and overweight and not feeling good about ourselves,
then having no confidence.
That's right. Then we're not going to carry out the purpose God has for us. And that's exactly what the devil wants. Yeah. He wants to keep us stuck, not using our gifts.
Yeah. Don't you think he wants to steal our confidence?
Oh, yeah.
And he's doing a real good job at it for lots of us. And that's why the first point is that we have to surrender this whole journey to God because we've got to counteract that. We are more than conquerors.
Amen.
And so part of learning to view food as fuel is something else that we haven't talked much about on this channel before, but it's this madness. It's this cycle of under-eating and binging. It's this cycle of using food as punishment and as reward. It's this crazy mess of wires in our brains where we have turned food into everything but fuel for our bodies. We've turned food into comfort. We've turned it into safety, into security, into our friend, into our lover, into our everything, into our happiness, into our joy. And oh my goodness, when you say those words out loud, that sounds horrible.
It certainly does. Like, we go to food for everything. We eat our emotions. When we're angry, we turn to junk food. When we're upset at our spouse or our children, the first thing we think of is, oh, I need chocolate, and stuff our mouth with whatever it is. We have to stop that binging cycle, like you said. We have to get off that hamster wheel, because depriving ourselves, because after we've binged, we feel, oh, I'm just
such a failure.
I did
I'm
it
such
again,
a loser.
and now I have to punish myself. I have to starve myself now. And no, we have to get off that hamster wheel. That's not what this is about, and that's not what God is asking us to do.
And see, as we've been discussing and preparing for this video, what we talked about is, like, if in our culture, if we could get back to viewing food as fuel and creating a healthy relationship with food, just about every problem that we have that's associated with weight would go away. Because if we actually looked at food as fuel, and we want to enjoy it too, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not that we don't want to enjoy it, but the function of food is to fuel and energize your body. And so if we actually view food that way, well, then when you feel stressed out, you wouldn't go eat 3 bags of chips.
That's
because
right.
think about the example of the fuel for your vehicle again. That's just spilling out everywhere. We wouldn't do that with our car. And so if we actually view food as fuel for our bodies, we wouldn't do that either.
No, we want to feel our emotions. We don't want to feed our emotions. And that's that whole cycle. We're a society that just feeds our emotions, and we have to get off of that. And with God in the journey, we can do it, because there is that way of escape that we talked about.
Exactly. And I just want to say one more thing too about the car example and the under eating and the punishing your body. We don't punish our car by not giving it gas if something broke down, or if something wasn't working, or if we're upset one day.
That sounds hilarious.
Right? Doesn't that sound silly? We don't do that. We don't go oh, you're not getting any gas today, but you still got to get me where I'm trying to go. And then go overfill it later, which is that under eating and punishing ourselves, and then binging later because we're not viewing food appropriately. We don't have a healthy relationship with food. So the more that we can put these visual pictures into our heads that kind of help us take the emotional charge away from the food. Like, if you look at the example of the car and putting fuel in your vehicle, it sounds so ridiculous to go I'm not going to put any fuel in my car today, right? And so think about that the next time that you decide you're going to undereat because you're punishing yourself because you binged last night.
That's right, because you might just have to go rent a horse to get where you want to go.
But that horse needs food for fuel too. Anyways, we hope that gives you a bit of a chuckle and a good illustration in your head for what we're really talking about.
That's right. And that just made me think you need a good chuckle, because, weight loss journeys are difficult. They're hard. And we all know that laughter is a medicine, and the Bible talks about that too. So we have to enjoy the journey. And so we need to find joy, and laughter is part of that. But let's just go on to tip number 3.
Yeah, but before we go on to tip number 3, we also just want to tell you that, you know what, this is complicated stuff, right? This isn't something that you're going to solve in one day or after you watch this video. This is something that takes work. It's a process. It's continually uncrossing those mixed up wires in your brain.
It's continually giving yourself grace day after day after day when you fall down, but you keep getting up again.
Exactly. It's continually surrendering the journey, and when you fall down, you got to get back up and keep going. And so if you need support on the journey, we have 2 separate things that we would like to offer to you. We have a membership community where really what we do is we help create healthy relationships with food. Right? We work through all those crossed wires. And you can find out all the information about that membership community down below in the description. It's called the WeighDown Lifestyle Membership. We'd love to invite you to check it out. We
have an amazing community, just so you know.
We do, a faith-based community where we are inviting God into the journey. We are learning to view food as fuel. And we are doing point number 3, which we'll get to in a second. But we also have an amazing 10-day WeighDown plan that's all about learning how to lose weight without being on a diet by incorporating these biblical principles. So you can also check that out below in the description.
Awesome. Okay, so tip number 3 is that you do have a lot of worth. Your worth is not relying on the number on the scale. And so I know that so many women step on the scale every day and they go, I'm up a quarter of a pound. I have to starve. I have to
do that under eating binge cycle.
Yeah, I can't eat a thing today. Or they get on the scale and they go, oh, I'm down a quarter of a pound. I get to eat today.
It's going to be good today.
And it's like, no, we have to get off of that cycle. Your worth is not reliant on the number on the scale. In fact, the scale is only one number. It's only one part of a weight loss journey. And it just plays with our mood. It plays with our mind, and it either discourages us or makes us encouraged, and then we go and eat.
Yeah.
So we have to let the scale go.
Exactly. You know, we often like to talk about how like we are living defeated by the scale. We are letting the scale dictate every emotion that we have, and then we turn to the emotional eating, which is what you're just saying, and it just keeps the whole cycle going. And so, you know, we don't believe in like never weighing ourselves because it is a good measurement, but it's one measurement. And so we have to learn to detach our worth from the scale. We have to stop weighing ourselves every day because guess what? Our bodies fluctuate day to day.
That's right. And if your mood is so dependent, whether it's up or down or staying the same, what a horrible way to live your life. I mean, yes, it is a number. It is a good thing to do once in a while. And I say once in a while, but don't let the scale control your mood.
Exactly. And so the biblical principle, which you kind of already said, but it's this: God says that you are worthy. You're worthy today, regardless of what the number on the scale says. That does not define your worth. It does not define your value. It doesn't define whether or not you are a daughter of the King.
Because you are a child of the King. You are a daughter of the King. And we have to live like we are daughters of the King. We are more than conquerors through Jesus.
And, you know, another funny illustration, if you think about how we let the scale just dictate our entire world, think about other numbers that say something about our health. Think about your blood pressure. Yeah. Okay? And think about if the next time you took your blood pressure after you walked up a flight of stairs and it was a little bit high, and you went like, well, I'm just going to ditch it all and I'm going to like wreck everything about my body and I'm going to like do everything I can to make that blood pressure go even higher. Like that's what we're doing when we let the scale dictate our whole life. We're going, well, I'm going to throw everything out the window and I'm going to go binge and eat all my emotions and make it worse. So think about if you did that with other numbers that we use in regards to like measurements of health, like blood pressure, or like what are some other numbers? Like
our sugar numbers.
Yeah.
With diabetes, and like we don't want to be binging on all the sugar because we know that it's not healthy. Type 2 diabetes is an epidemic today.
Yeah, and so if you take your blood sugar and it's high, if you are a diabetic, are you going to go like, well, I guess I better go eat some more sugar?
Yeah, it's like, exactly opposite of what your doctor is telling you to do.
Yeah, and that's what we do with the scale. We want to lose weight. We want to reclaim our health. We want to get to a healthy weight. We want to reclaim our health, and then we see a number we don't like, and so then we go do a whole bunch of unhealthy behaviors because we're upset.
And I'm going to even add more to that, which is we do the opposite of what the Bible is telling us to do, which is to treat our body like a temple. When we think of a temple, we think of some place that is a beautiful building, something that we are reverent in, we're in awe of, and we honor it. When we're filling our body with trash, with all the junk, well, that is not honoring this temple that God gave us.
No, it's really not. So if you are somebody that really truly struggles with the scale, here's what we recommend. We recommend putting it away for a while. Okay?
Try putting it away for like 2 weeks. I know that's an awfully long time if you're used to weighing every day or multiple times a day.
Exactly. Because we know women who even do that. They get on the scale in the morning and then they're like, whoo, guess I can eat. And then they get on at lunchtime and it's too high and then they can't eat. And then they get on it again at dinner and like
their day is ruined.
Yeah. So like we've got to stop that because you are giving all of your power over to a device that spits out one number.
So here's what to do. Put your scale underneath your bed and push it all the way into the middle underneath the middle of the bed so that you can't reach it.
Yeah, exactly. Or we've also had women who put it inside of their dirty laundry hampers because they don't want to go digging through the dirty clothes.
That's right at the very bottom. So do something and just see if you can actually do it. It will be a really good challenge for you.
Exactly. And every time you feel like your worth is dictated by the scale, you got to claim that your worth is not in that number. You've got to find a scripture verse that speaks to who you are, that speaks to who God says you are, and claim that over yourself instead of claiming that number over yourself as your worth.
Because God says that you are made in his image. He formed you and he knows you. He knew you in your mother's womb. So he knit you together perfectly. So you do have a lot of value.
Exactly. And so, we just want to recap these 3 principles for you really quickly. We know that this video has been a little bit long, but these are really important things. And if we can incorporate these biblical principles into our weight loss journey, it's going to be possible.
That's right.
And
in fact, it is possible.
Exactly. It's not going to be, it is.
So you can lose your next 10 pounds. So tip number 1 was to surrender it all. Invite God into your whole weight loss journey.
Tip number 2 is to treat your body like a temple, not a trash can, and learn how to view food as fuel for your body.
And tip number 3 is that you are worthy. You are a daughter of the King. God says you are worth it. So let's do this journey together.
Exactly. So we just want to say thank you so much for being here. If this video has been helpful for you, if you've had like an aha moment, tell us in the comments below. We will respond to you. We really, truly, our hearts are to help and serve you. And so we're happy that you're here. And until next time, we always like to say, treat your body like a temple, not a trash can.